What's up guys, it's Coach the Super Coach. I'm here yet again with Coach X, my brother. He's gonna be interviewing me today, I guess. I guess that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Interview. Okay.
So I have a class, Biomechanics right now at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and we got asked to interview someone in the profession that we're looking at.
Biomechanics was the hard class when I remember back to it, so this is gonna be fun.
It's kind of a generic question,
Okay.
but how do you use biomechanics in your career?
Generic, but at the same time perfect for my job. I am a PE coach. I coach volleyball and basketball also. I coach anyone from pre-K through 8th grade. So I get a wide mix of ages. So since I deal with pre-K through 8th grade, as they get older, they're gonna wanna deal with less of those individual specific skills. But when they're young, that's exactly what they're hitting them with. We're hitting them from crawling to leaping, jumping, basic stuff, what it seems like basic, but for them, right away there's things that like we can recognize like, oh, this person skipped this step, or this person skipped this person is, we see a lot of kids that are, they bite on their shirts, and right away we know like possibly that type of child would have skipped maybe crawling, and so we'll set up crawling events or crawling stations to kind of practice with those and that sort of thing. So the younger kids, we work on a lot more biomechanics. The older kids, it's almost like if we've developed it correctly, then they should have it a little bit more by that.
Being a kines major yourself, and after taking the biomechanics class, did the mindset of coaching basketball and volleyball get altered for you after taking that class?
It was so altered to the point of like me realizing there's always a better way to do every single thing. We use it constantly, and we're constantly referring back to it and thinking like, okay, how is this important? How can we use this and with this athlete compared to this athlete? And like we said previously, like with the younger kids, they're not really doing a lot of sports. With the older kids, they should have all those like biomechanical things, but at the same time they don't always. So we're going back and helping them with them, and then at the same time we're helping them with teamwork stuff.
And I'm sure even with like the older kids, you can still use those biomechanics like in a higher, more developed form, right?
We can get quicker into games. We can do fun like activities with it. For instance, we do a big unit on striking, and everybody thinks striking is just punching or hitting. Well, when you have a stick and now you can strike with as a baseball bat, or you can strike with a hockey stick. So it takes kind of their mindset and evolves it into something greater. So a skill of pushing may be great for very few things, but then when you put it in a sports mindset, it's like, oh, I'm gonna use it for football, I'm gonna use it for basketball, I'm gonna use it for rebounding, for whatever it may be.
Coach Lou talks about striking and mentions the young athletes learning to push or use a baseball bat or hockey stick. He's discussing how force is applied in the sports he coaches. For example, striking a volleyball so it is forced to fly over the net.
Yeah, I love how you brought up the striking. One of my questions is, as a coach, do you see power or endurance more important in basketball? I know you're a basketball coach, and that's really your favorite. Which one, power or endurance, is more important?
That's okay. So that's so for me it's a loaded question because it depends on my year. It depends on how many kids I have on the team, right? If I have a ton of kids, well then I don't need them to have a lot of endurance. And if I have a ton of big strong kids, well then I wish they had more endurance, right? But overall, what's more important? What do I think? Because I deal with kids that are younger than high school age, we don't get them in the weight room a whole lot. So a big thing is moving them, running with them, getting them moving, because it's just gonna, it gets really ugly when it comes to lifting weights with young kids. And so especially with parents and stuff, we allow the parents to take them lifting as much as they want. But with us, we do so much more with skill work or with, like you're saying, endurance or movement. And so I can see where a high school coach is going to look at me and say, absolutely not. Yeah. It's all about the weights. But we're just at the middle school or the elementary level, we're teaching more skill, endurance, and it makes sense.
He feels it's more important to learn skill rather than practicing power by lifting heavy weight, especially for kids. As they grow, they can practice power so it can benefit them in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing there's a positive effect on a backspin when you're taking a shot. In your opinion, does it really affect the shot compared to not shooting it? And is it something that you promote?
So this is another question that I was hoping somebody down the road would ask me this question. It's loaded also for me, but it's loaded because I've done a lot of research, right? I've done a lot of research and I've seen the facts behind if the ball is rolling backwards and it hits the back of the rim, there's a really good chance it's gonna roll into the hoop, right? But recently I had a conversation with Chad Forcier being the former Spurs, Orlando Magic, and Memphis Grizzlies coach, big shooting coach. He told me stop worrying about backspin. And then as a coach, it's like, no, I have to worry about backspin. Why are you saying this? Stop telling my kids this. But he had a really good concept. He said there's so many more things that are more important. The trajectory is more important. Your legs are more important. Your arc is more important. Your elbow in. All those things are actually more important than the backspin. Again, I'm a big fan of the backspin, so don't hate me because I'm saying this. This is just what I'm kind of telling you guys from what he said. He says all these things are more important than the backspin. So the backspin is what everyone sees. The backspin is what everyone's gonna say, well, you don't have backspin on that spot. Everyone can just look at and spot it like right away, right? But it's all the other things that are far more important than the backspin. The backspin's like the last thing that you wanna work on. So it took me back a little bit and I kind of like, I almost wanted to argue, like, no, that doesn't sound right. But when you think about it in that aspect, you learn everything else first. And then when you're at the top and you're saying, okay, what can I do to perfect my shot? The backspin is gonna be literally the easiest thing. If you've done everything else correct, your elbow's in, the ball's leaving your hand correctly, it's gonna roll off that hand and you're gonna be able to make the backspin a little easier. It kind of blew me away because at first I was like, absolutely not. The backspin may be the most important thing. Young coaches still teach the backspin is still an important thing, but I think the point is the mechanics of a shot have been worked out. There's no really changing it to make it better. The biomechanics are there. So your elbow in, your knees are bent, you're bending, the arc of the shot. If you're doing all those things, those are gonna be the most important things. Now, if you're working with someone and you see their backspin, that's something that's gonna be an easy thing to fix. Those other things are gonna be much harder to fix, but probably more important.
Coach Lou mentions technique when it comes to shooting the basketball. He talks about backspin and keeping the elbow in. This also comes to an effect when it comes to trajectory of the ball. Basically, the greater the trajectory, which is the larger the angle, there's more arc, which allows for more room for error. And typically, with more arc, you see the ball going in more rather than low trajectory and low angle. You see the ball hit off the back of the backboard or hit off the front of the rim. Typically, it's not the best way to shoot the ball. So, larger trajectory, larger angle, better results.
One last question. In your opinion, what is the most important biomechanical skill to learn for the players that you coach? And that's, again, very broad, but if you had to just pick one biomechanical skill.
Ooh, that's a good one. Dang, that's a tough one because I talk so much about attitude and what's in your mind, and then to switch it up and go biomechanical, what would be the best skill? And again, it's depending on the sport, right? Or depending on the age group. The younger they are, it's more about running and not bumping into each other and not hitting heads. But let's say my middle school basketball team, I got it. And I don't know how, it's not a specific thing, but lowering your body mass and your body gravity and spreading your legs to the point of like having a good base. It's something that's like not talked a lot, and as a coach I've kind of realized like for instance, last year I had 5 basketball players on my team, and I had to go out and I had to find new basketball players to add on, right? And there were no other basketball players in the school, so I added a fencer, we added a parkourist, and these kids that knew how to do other skills, we brought them into basketball, and it was like, and you were there, so it was like, what do we teach first? What is the first thing we teach? And the first thing we taught them to do was how to get a rebound, right? Because you might not know how to dribble, you might not know how to shoot, but if you can get a rebound, you can get low, you can separate your legs and then push someone back, and that ball's dropping in front of you, grabbing that rebound. That's just a really important skill.
Coach Lou mentions center of gravity. Center of gravity is huge when it comes to any sport, especially basketball. When rebounding, you want to have a low center of gravity. You want to be able to be stable, balanced. By doing this, you can spread out your legs, maybe squat a little bit, bend your knees, and stay low. This allows you to control yourself as well as the person behind you trying to get through you. The lower center of gravity, it's harder for your opponent to get past you or to out-rebound you.
And then we can build the rest. We can teach him how to shoot. Chad Forcier also was one of the guys that said, hey, when you're teaching a kid how to play basketball, the most important thing you can do for him, and biomechanically or just in general, is teach him how to shoot correctly. Because if you teach him how to shoot correctly over the course of that kid's life, he's gonna shoot more often, he's gonna enjoy shooting, and then when he practices, he's gonna make it more, and in turn, he's gonna love the game that much more. So from a professional level, looking down at sports, he's saying shooting is the best thing to teach. From I have a team and we have a game next week level, I'm teaching rebounding because nobody wants to rebound and I gotta teach someone how to do it. So
and I like how you're saying just lower your center of gravity, because that has to do with a lot of things, like Coach Lou said, rebounding, but also like speed. The lower you are, the quicker you are. You know, the higher you are, it's a little bit harder to run, and you're protecting the ball when you're lower. That's a very good point.
We recently brought up Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, is the greatest. But what you don't realize is when Michael Jordan drove to the basket, he lowered his shoulders so much lower than the defense. So the defense was actually taller and higher, and when you're low, you can get where you need to so much easier. And so, again, the center of gravity is such a big deal, and it's something where you don't think about as a kid, and it's not that important. But strengthening those legs and getting low is a big deal, man. So.
Well, Louis, thank you so much for...
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for interviewing, man. Peace.